All right, we're live. Here we go.
Hey. Oh, I can see behind your DM screen.
You can. You can. And
Right
I got to
there.
turn off the. I always forget to turn off the sound on everything.
I can see what's going to happen in the next episode.
I don't know about that, can you? What can you see?
I can see, that part right there
You
with
mean,
the Dwergar.
yeah, you mean the part in Icewind Dale where Edmund, Flair, and Everard die? Is that the part
Yep,
you're seeing?
that part right there. It says right here, Flair
Welcome,
dies.
everybody. Welcome to Icewind Dale. I mean, Tabletop Bob. My name is Bob, and I've got a wonderful friend and player of mine, CJ, who will be joining me tonight.
Hey.
And we're going to be talking about Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, as the title says. Um, I'll just start off, CJ, with a couple of things. As we go through this book, and I do have it here, and we're going to share images from it. But as we go through the book, I do want to talk about how this not only applies to, D&D in general, but also how it applies to our campaign, the Icewind Dale campaign, how we might have to alter our characters and, the very big third level coming up. So keep that in mind as we go through. I want to kind of touch on that too.
Very excited about that. Very excited about third level. I'm very excited about this whole book in general because it really is the next biggest expansion for the game that we haven't seen since Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it really opens up Dungeons and Dragons to a lot of new options for players and dungeon masters alike that really gives people a lot of permission to do things that they might not have thought of, or that people were probably doing in their home games that now they're given the ability to do it through the rules of the game itself. They don't have
Almost
to
like
after
permission.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, and that's something we're going to touch on, is I think a lot of these, aspects of this book that are new are things that a lot of people did in their games to begin with. I know in a campaign we were talking before we went on stream, we felt like some of these rules we had used. So, we'll talk about all that. Also, I should remind everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, to hit the like button, subscribe, bell icon. People know how to do that, right, CJ? I mean, it's.
I think so.
Do I need to
Pretty
explain
sure
that?
everyone
I
knows
don't
how
think
to
so.
like, subscribe, hit the bell, and get notified of the updates when we go live and when new videos are posted.
Yeah, that was better than I said. Also, Twitch people, follow me. I'm working out some Twitch things too, CJ. I've been talking with Randall, the Battle for Salvation resident streamer.
Oh, yeah?
So I think it's all in the tags, he says. I have to get my tags right. So I put
Tags,
some tags in, but,
your tags.
Yeah.
Dungeons, Dragons, D&D.
Yep.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything.
Yeah, that's important.
Live discussion.
Live discussion. I didn't put that down. But yes, ultimately, we're going to. I'm trying to get the Twitch stream going as well, and I'm streaming a couple of different things this week. I'll be doing a Dungeon Master prep on Friday night for my new, not my new, it's not new anymore, my horror campaign that's going to go off on Sunday. So I'll be streaming DM prep Friday and the horror stream on Sunday.
Now, do I have to have watched every episode of that?
Oh no, CJ. Oh no. You can watch any episode and be filled right in. It's a one-shot campaign, so every episode is contained. Every episode it gets finished within one setting, and it's awesome.
That's awesome. That's a great way to run something.
Yeah. What's also cool is if you're a dungeon master, you could totally take these modules and run them yourself now that you've seen somebody else run them. It's wonderful.
It's always useful.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into Tasha's Cauldron and everything. I'm going to switch our screens here.
All right.
All right, so yeah, so
Upside
right here,
down.
Yeah, I'm going to zoom it in a little bit more because it's a little hard to see. But this is the table of contents. All right.
Am I seeing the stream because it looks backwards? And
it looks backwards in the stream?
Yeah.
Oh,
If
perfect.
what's on the screen is on the stream, then
Yeah,
it
so
is
I have to turn that around. Yeah, I could do that. Thank you.
well now it's upside.
Yeah, I think Zoom is different.
Oh,
Yeah,
is the
so
zoom different than
yep,
the?
yep.
Okay, because
There.
what
Well,
I'm seeing
now
is upside down.
I'm not seeing upside down anymore, are you? Oh yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm seeing upside
We'll
down, but
get
now
it.
I'm seeing backwards.
We'll get it. It's
Okay.
coming. Watch this. I'm watching it delayed. It's really funny. Okay, so it's backwards. That's what it is. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mirrored reversed.
gotcha. So I know what I had to do. But while I'm fixing this, why don't you tell us about the contents of this book? What does this book contain?
All right, so this book, this is a really exciting book. We have chapter 1 is new character options, which is a huge. It's one of the biggest parts of the book because it offers new classes. It brings in some. It brings the artificer into real Dungeons and Dragons away from the Eberron book where it was originally introduced. And it brings it in because I think a lot of people really wanted that into the game. It brings 2 new barbarian classes, subclasses. I'm sorry, 2 new bard colleges, 3 new cleric domains, 3 new druid subclasses, 2 fighter subclasses, with some possible little loadouts that you might think of using for your fighter. 2 new monk options, 2 new oaths for paladins, 2 new subclasses for ranger, 2 for rogue, 2 for sorcerer, 2 for warlock, and 2 more for wizard. And that's that's a lot of new subclasses and features.
Yeah, it's like 80 pages
Yeah,
of
it's
subclasses. Yeah.
definitely the biggest part of the book to go through and see all of the new options and ways that you can customize your character now. Because in addition to those things I mentioned, there's optional class features that can replace or augment your character that you already have in the game.
Yeah. And that's really just chapter 1, along with the um, changing of the ability scores, the lineage system. Those are just character options that anybody could take. And I think we've talked about this for our Icewind Dale group. I am totally fine with all of these options. This is legit. This is official now. So I think that when you get to third level, or well, I guess some of these would not be for third level. Some of these would have to be um, allowed earlier because, like, cleric, for example, right? You get a lot of domain things at second level. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, but we don't have any clerics in our campaign. But if you had an ability or something that came earlier, I would be fine swapping that out when the level 3 comes.
Same thing with I think warlocks and sorcerers. I think they really take a big chunk of where their origin from their first level.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So things like that. If we had a character, luckily I actually don't think we do. We paladin, rogue, bard, and ranger. So I think we're actually good. All the big milestones are third level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
either way, that's something that I think dungeon masters would have to decide if they wanted to kind of go back and allow their characters to rebuild. And there's rules for that in here too.
I was going to say
Um,
there are actually rules
yeah.
in offered in the book to allow you to do that if you felt like you needed to change your subclass.
Yeah. Exactly. And we'll get to that. What's one was one of the funny thing you told me to look at the disclaimer, right? Let's look at
Yeah,
that first.
the disclaimer.
So there's always
What
this
is the
disclaimer in
disclaimer?
these books.
You never want to do anything without reading the disclaimer, making sure that you know what you're getting yourself into.
That's true. That's true. So I have it here. I'll go in and read it aloud so that we can, if it's hard to see or people need to hear it. Its disclaimer says, contained herein are the observations of the Archmage Tasha, later known as the Witch Queen, and then Igwilv, which I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. She's one of the greatest wizards in the history of the multiverse. We fear there is an incantation hidden within these notes, and have therefore bound this tome with powerful wards. If you are reading this, the first ward has already been broken. If you dare read any further, we cannot guarantee the safety of your soul, or that you won't open a portal to another plane of existence. Hold on to your hat, CJ. If a portal does not appear, or seriously, excuse me, does appear, pray that nothing worse than Tasha's mother, Baba Yaga, appears. And if the mother of hags arrives, be sure to offer only praises of her daughter, or offer muffins. She loves muffins.
Oh, I'm gonna go look for muffins. Not sure I have any.
Yeah, no, I don't know that we have any. Actually, we made muffins yesterday, coincidentally.
Oh, you have muffins.
We did. Yeah.
Well, hopefully the portal opens at your house and not.
Yeah, not yours. Yeah. So there's a lot of humor sprinkled into this book, just like Xanathar's Guide. You've got kind of Tasha's personality that comes through in a lot of these quotations and things like that. So overall, I like the design of the book and the artwork too.
Yes, some of the artwork is fantastic.
Yeah, really, really good.
We'll get to see that, but
the full page spreads, they're good.
Yeah.
All right. So the one thing that I thought was very clever at the beginning is they go over this rules to remember, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because these are kind of obvious for most D&D players, but there are a lot of unspoken rules, things that we always forget. Things rules wise, like advantage and disadvantage. You can only get one source of an advantage, and disadvantage. You can't, doesn't stack, doesn't give you any other bonuses. Timing of reactions. But then the one thing that I thought was really, really cool is number 10 is have fun. And coming from a Warhammer 40K player, as you know, CJ, because you're such a big Warhammer guy, that's like the golden rule in Warhammer too, is basically like, don't worry about rules, don't argue about them. If there's a discrepancy, roll off. That's like literally what the rule book says. You roll a d6 and whoever, gets highest wins. Here it would be the DM's discretion, but just have fun. Like, don't worry about rules. And on the next page, the opposite page, all rules are optional. So like literally, everything in this book is totally at your disposal to use. Don't use it, change it, homebrew it, whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. I think that's a very big, important part of D&D and gaming in general. Is most tabletop gaming is that, like, if a rule doesn't fit or if a rule needs to be tweaked a little bit, you're usually within your right to make a change to that rule. Not all games. I mean, you can't just make up rules in chess, but in storytelling games or in games where the rules might not be as concrete as you might like, it's always okay to maybe change it a little bit if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, you could make up rules in chess. My son does that, so it does work. So let's go into a section about lineage and character options.
Okay,
this was probably the one thing that was the most like controversial part of this book, was customizing your origin. Really early on, when this book was announced, there were interviews with D&D kind of the content creators, and why am I blanking on his name? But Jeremy Crawford. Yeah, he said a couple of things like, if you want to play Elfie McElferson, then go ahead, use the player's handbook. But if you want to create a unique, character, then this book is gonna change your world. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but ultimately that's what he said. And a lot of people, D&D is sacred. There's some things that older players, especially like the veteran players from other editions, you don't mess with. Like, dwarves have a better constitution, elves have a better dexterity. Like, there's just a couple of things that I think a lot of D&D players are going to have a hard time wrapping their minds around here. What is your opinion of the custom origin?
I feel like it came a little bit earlier than them talking about the book. I think they kind of I feel like I remember it coming before they even announced the book, that people, and there was this undercurrent of people that were feeling that like race shouldn't be tied to the way that your character is.
Mm-hmm.
And there was kind of a uh, I don't know how to say this delicately, but it felt like there was
It's
some.
okay. We're just on stream, and this will be on YouTube for the rest of
Yeah,
eternity.
I know.
So
And I'm trying to think of how, like, people didn't want to associate good and bad traits with certain uh, types of characters.
yeah,
And I think that was a big thing, and people wanted to have the ability to be a very dexterous dwarf, and they didn't want to have to be a an elf to have high dexterity. They didn't want to have to be, or they didn't want to have to be have high charisma as a dragonborn to
yep,
be able to use their breath weapon. And I think that was also a part of it, is that people felt that certain character races were being pigeonholed into certain things, and they still wanted to be able to have the option
yep,
without having to really make new ways of getting the stats that they wanted. I think that was another thing, is that if you used the standard array of ability scores and you used the ability score enhancements that you got from your race, there was really only one way to do it, was to put the 15 in the best uh, score you were going to have,
mm-hmm.
that your +2 was going to be applied to, and then you were stuck with a character with that as their main stat, and you couldn't really adjust
Right.
on the fly like that. And I
Almost
think,
like it's predetermined. Like
yeah,
what those stats have to be for you to be an
yeah,
effective character.
like
Yeah.
everyone knew, you like, if you're going to be a dragonborn, you're going to have a high charisma, so you're going to be a sorcerer or a
Mm-hmm.
paladin or a bard, and like you're going to be one of those characters that uses that. If you're going to be an elf, you're going to use dexterity. You might be a
Yep.
dexterity fighter or a ranger or something like that, and it really kind of limited what you wanted to do. Whereas, unless you were rolling stats and got lucky and got, say, an 18, and then you could put your 18 in
Well,
another.
yeah, rolling changes everything because you could have awesome stats or really terrible stats, and race almost doesn't matter at that point. Um,
Right.
you ready for my hot take here, CJ?
I'm ready for the hot takes.
I actually I don't want to use the word hate, but I will, just because I want to,
Bring the controversy.
I want to bring the controversy here. I hate it. I hate it. I really dislike it. But it's not for the reasons that I think everybody else dislikes it. Online, a lot of people were defending the idea that the natural ability scores should be the way they are. That it kind of takes away the specialness, and I actually am fine with it from like the perspective you were talking about, how people shouldn't be pigeonholed into certain racial stereotypes, and I'm all for variety. I'm all for mixing it up, and I'm all for uh, you know allowing people to make the characters they want. The hardcore competitive gamer in me, the Warhammer player in me, it doesn't make sense. Basically, race is just a skin now. It's just a and I don't actually, that's a pun really there. It's more just like a flavor, a shade. Like you could be a orc that is really the absolute weakest orc, and I think there should be picking a race from the gameplay perspective. There should be downsides. There should be positives. From purely a gameplay perspective, I'm all for all the positive aspects of it. But like I said, I like when there's rules, and when you make different selections, there's penalties and bonuses,
And
and
I
that's
think,
really all it is. Like I said, the game mechanic wise, I dislike it a lot, but all the other things I generally am fine with it.
I'm sure we could probably talk about this for hours, but you still gain the race's racial abilities regardless of where you put those ability scores.
Correct.
Like I
You get a
said, like
plus
if you
two.
wanted
Yeah.
to be a high dexterity dragonborn that uses like that flips around the battlefield and like does crazy acrobatic
Right.
moves and like does a backflip and then can shoot their breath weapon at a group of enemies, how much cooler is that than being the dragonborn who's the paladin who always has to rush in, shield out,
I
and
100% agree with you. 100% agree with you.
or the orc who again, or the half orc who has the resilient orc thing, but he's like super weak. But like even though he's really weak, and when he gets taken down, he still has that orcish
Right.
resilience, and he still only goes down to 1 hit point on the first. Like he's the wizard in the back who
Right.
gets hit with like an arrow and goes down immediately. But you know what? He's still at 1 hit point because
Because
he's
of
got
his
that orcish
exactly the
resilience.
orc resilience. Yeah. No, I like I said, from a character creation standpoint, from a you know inclusivity standpoint, diversity, all that, I'm 100% on board. When you make your character, though, it does feel weird that you basically can just assign them anywhere. But for those of you who are thinking about it, I'm going to actually just read this custom lineage section right here, so it kind of puts everything into context. So instead of choosing one of your game's races for your character,
This is
you you can use the following traits to represent your character's lineage. So this is again all optional. You can do it as like CJ was describing, where you basically just can move around your ability modifiers. That's one way the book says to do it. Or you could basically make your own custom uh, character, really, with unique traits. You can change your type. You're a humanoid though, but you choose your appearance and whether you resemble your kin or not. You're small or medium, your choice. So you could be a human that's small. You could be an orc that's small. You could be any medium-sized character be small, or you could be a halfling that's medium. You could be a little bit bigger. Size does not go along with speed. You can choose to have a speed of 30 feet. You can even go to 20 feet. The ability score increases by two, one ability by two, and you gain a feat of your choice for which you qualify. And then you get variable traits. You could choose dark vision or proficiency skill of your choice, and you get a language so of your choice. So again, there's lots of systems in here. One of them is just simply swapping out types of abilities, swapping out skills, swapping out armor, swapping out proficiencies, swapping out tools, or completely make your own custom character, basically.
mhm.
So yeah.
Custom
So anyway,
lineage. I did get into a discussion with someone earlier this week about custom lineage, and it doesn't feel as impressive as it could have been. And
yeah,
the person's argument was that it felt like you're choosing just a feat. It's almost variant human plus in that you're getting, so because it doesn't
it
feel
does.
like much different than variant human, where you would get a +2 to a skill, a feat for free, and you're getting you're maybe getting dark vision and a proficiency.
Right. You'd almost
And
rather just be a race and just swap the ability score.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's not. I mean, it's definitely a good way to do it if you feel like there isn't the character that you want to build
Hmm.
with the options that are available, but it does also feel not as uh, impressive of a way to create a character, because
Yeah. Like a
you're
little.
missing out on a lot of racial abilities. I
Right.
think if you in favor of just a feat that
Yeah. Yeah.
may not give
Yeah.
you
I
what you want.
almost I almost see no reason to use the custom lineage unless, like you said, you really don't see the character you want to make in any of the races at all. Yeah. Okay. So then the second part of chapter one is all about classes. So we're going to go through and highlight a couple of ones that we
I
took
think
a kind of
one
note.
other thing,
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
right in this section of the chapter is also the changing your subclass
Oh yeah.
section.
Yeah. Let's go back to
Um,
that actually.
and I think that's a really important thing about this book is the ability to change your subclass, because for a lot of games, and you can, if you start at a later level in that campaign and build your character out with a certain subclass in mind, and then suddenly you show up at the table and your character is not going to be as useful as you had thought, being able to change out your subclass narratively or within the game's context is a really useful tool
It's huge.
for
Yeah.
players and DMs. Um, and the other thing is, so if you're in like a horror campaign and you create it, or you're in a seafaring campaign and your character is very land oriented, or if you're in a land oriented campaign and your character was very seaworthy, like you created a pirate character and all of a sudden, oh, we're stuck in the desert, you might want to change your subclass.
Yeah.
And that's really a useful tool here. And one of the things is the training time that comes up. And I, again, was reading something on some forums earlier
On the dark web.
on the dark web about how the difference between training your subclass is much faster to do than training in a proficiency in a skill or whatnot, or something like that. And I hadn't read this chapter at the time, but it was very important to me that in this chapter it says the DM might require you to do this, or the DM might also require you to spend, like, might require you to spend time, might require you to spend money, might require you to find someone to do this, to train you.
That's true. Yeah.
And it was that the way that the person was discussing it on the forum, it sounded like they were being forced to spend time and money to do it, whereas it's actually a might. It's a like it might, you might have to do this, or your DM just might say, sure, you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and everything's fine, and you are now the new subclass.
In D&D, it's always, at the discretion of the DM and the group. So, if the whole group is supporting you on this, it's good. It's good to go. Anything goes as long as it fits into the story. And I think that's the biggest thing that this book wants to make sure everybody knows, is that, the story matters, and, gameplay wise, anything gameplay wise can be changed so long as it makes sense and your DM's okay with it.
And of course, having fun.
Have fun.
Because it might not be fun for you to play your pirate character in the desert.
Or it might be. Or it might be.
Or it might be.
You never know.
As long as you're having fun.
So now we'll look at the classes. So obviously, some of the classes here are not new. They were reprinted, like the Artificer, or brought over from Unearthed Arcana. But, there are a couple of new ones. And there are, like we said, 80 pages or so of subclasses. So did any of these stand out to you, CJ?
The armor actually stands out the most to me. The armor is the newest subclass in the alchemist specialist. And it really stood out to me because there's a lot of, like, reading through it, you're Iron Man is how I read it. I immediately started reading it, and the way that the arcane armor works, my initial thought was, you're Iron Man from Infinity War. You have, so the thing that it stands out is, let me see if I can find arcane armor. Here we go. You gain the following benefits. If the armor normally has a strength requirement, the arcane armor locks the requirement. So you can wear full plate armor even though you might not have the strength.
Right.
You can use the arcane armor as a spell casting focus. So now your armor is where your spells originate from. So you have like the chest beam from Iron Man if you want. The armor attaches to you and can't be removed against your will. So now it's definitely that armor, like, chest piece. It also expands to cover your entire body, although you can retract or it expands to cover your whole body. So again, it can be that little thing, and then like in Infinity War, it just like
either the mask or the chest. Out. Yeah.
And although you can retract or deploy the helmet as a bonus action. So bonus action, whoosh, whoosh, helmet. That's fantastic. That's Iron Man all the way.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yep.
And the armor replaces any missing limbs, functioning identically to the limit replaces. So this is another cool thing that it doesn't work if you start at like first level, but at third level, if you wanted to play an artificer armor who like is missing his like one of his arms, or
Sure.
like doesn't have like, or has like a prosthetic leg or something like that, because there are also rules for prosthetic legs. But like if you were missing an arm, or if you were a Loxodon, one of those elephant people, and the armor made your trunk for you as one of your limbs. Like I think
That's so
that
funny.
would be a very fun,
Yeah.
like cool idea. And then donning and doffing the armor as an action instead of taking the
A
whole
minute or whatever it
minutes.
is. Yeah.
I think it's 15 minutes
It's
for.
long for depending on the size of the armor. The heavy armor
Yeah.
is longer. Yeah.
So I
No,
thought that
it's
was like the cool one of the funner aspects of this character, that they're now basically Iron Man in
yeah.
like a full. If you have a full plate set of armor, you can become
That's
Iron
really
Man.
cool. Yeah, that's really cool. So that's a new one, right? Because that wasn't in Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah, this is a new
Yeah.
one that I don't know
Gotcha.
if it was in Unearthed Arcana, but it definitely wasn't in Eberron.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, because you play a artificer in
Mm-hmm.
our game that we
Play
play
a
together.
Battlesmith Artificer
Yeah.
in a different campaign.
Yep. Okay. So artificer, armorer, excellent. Um, you know, in terms of uh, other classes here, I mean, I saw this cleric, the cleric of peace, and just the picture here. When I was reading through this today, I was like, this guy's gonna die. But they have some really cool elements to this cleric here. Okay, you see the picture? Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. So there's one thing here. So when at first level they get this because it's a domain feature and clerics get to pick their domain right away. Um, you basically get to choose a number of willing allies within 30 feet of you, equal to your proficiency bonus, so 2 right away, and you get a magical bond within with them for 10 minutes. While you're bonded, as long as you're all within 30 feet of each other, you get a d4 extra on any attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. So you basically buff your party with a d4 for like everything they do. And I mean, I think the concept behind this is that you're supposed to be like, pacifist, but everyone around you is going to be getting more bonuses and things like that. So I've I forever have wanted to play like a pacifist type character where I only aid, do skills. I don't actually fight. This could be the way to do it.
Yeah, I think Order Domain also has a fun ability similar to that. Is it?
Is that in this book too?
Yeah. This is right
Twilight,
before this.
Peace, Order. Yeah.
Um,
Here it is. Order. So their domain ability is, let's see, Voice of Authority. So
that's
no, I don't think it's the same thing. This is a
no.
if you
There
cast a
was
spell.
something. Maybe it was different. Um,
This one's talking about using casting a spell of first level or higher. You can target an ally with a spell, and you can use their reaction immediately after to make a weapon attack. So it's
that was,
a little different,
yeah.
but it
Okay.
is benefiting on you're helping others and getting more. You're getting more bang for your buck for the spell.
Mhm. That
But yeah,
one, that ability, I think, is fun when a character goes down. Uh, then you can revive them with 1 HP, or how like you
mm,
can healing word them from a distance. If they like go down
yep,
like next to an enemy, healing word, and then they wake up, and now all of a sudden they can immediately attack as soon as they wake up. Sure, they're going to
yep,
be prone while they attack. That might affect their attack, but
yep.
they wake up with some hit points and can attack immediately. If
Yeah,
they've,
that would have been really helpful in the Dwergar outpost.
it would have helped a lot last night. Yes, with everyone going down. But we
Yeah,
don't have any clerics, so
no
we missed
clerics.
that. No
All right, good,
clerics.
excellent. Anything else stand out to you? I mean, there's
Um,
just so many actually.
there's so many. The path of the beast on the barbarian
Oh
was
yeah,
was one thing that there was one thing about this that really stood out to me. So the Path of the Beast barbarian, which is pretty cool. They're like a shape changing
Yeah.
bestial uh, barbarian. They have this ability in their when they take the path called Form of the Beast, and they can at will when they choose their uh, when they go into a rage, they can transform their body, either growing claws or a tail, or gaining like a mandible bite, like changing the way that their mouth like looks. So they get this new weapon, and
Yeah. And you can see
so
the
the one
picture
is
here too.
yeah. So bite says your mouth transforms into a bestial muzzle or great mandibles, your choice. It deals 1d8 piercing damage on a hit. Once on each of your turns, when you damage a creature with this bite, you regain a number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus, provided you have less than half your hit points when you hit. That's great. You gain at first level, you gain 2 hit points every time you bite somebody with, and you do 1d8 damage. What's interesting about this to me was what happens when you pair this with a lizard folk. Because lizard folk, I don't know if you have the book available to you, but lizard
Which
folk
one's that?
are
More is
a
that
player,
Volo's Guide?
I believe they're in Volo's Guide.
Yeah, I don't have it right next to me.
I'm gonna pull this up. I had this.
Sure.
Let me see if I have it still open here.
Do they gain they have a bite attack, no? Or am I
Lizard
wrong?
folk have a bite attack also. Okay. So they gain bite. Your fang maw is a natural weapon which you can use to make unarmed strikes. If you hit with it, you deal piercing damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength modifier instead of bludgeoning damage.
So are you saying does it double dip here?
I don't think it double dips. I think you have to choose which type of bite you're going to use, because the other part of being a lizard folk is you have hungry jaws, which is in battle you can throw yourself into a vicious feeding frenzy. As a bonus action, you can make a special attack with your bite. If the attack hits, it deals normal damage and you gain temporary hit points, minimum 1 temporary hit points, equal to your constitution modifier, and you can't use this again until you finish a short rest or a long rest.
So you could bite with the feeding frenzy, gain hit points that way, and then on your turn, bite with the Form of the Beast bite, gain hit points back that way. Is that what you're suggesting?
I wrote this all. So you have 2 different bite attacks. Once per short rest. Well, you can always do the one as a lizard folk, but once per short rest, when you bite, you do 1d6 damage and gain temporary hit points equal to your constitution modifier. But during any attack while you're raging, you can deal 1d8 damage with your bite and gain hit points equal to your proficiency modifier if you're at less than half your hit points.
Oh, goodness.
So you have these 2 different, like, it's a very strange combination.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure, like,
they anticipated?
I don't know if they didn't anticipate it, or like it just has this very strange synergy, but also like, I don't know what's the opposite of a synergy, like anti-synergy, because like you're not sure which bite to use. Do you want to do the d8 damage and get
I hear you.
Back? You want to do the 6d6 h damage and get temp hit points? Like, is it enough damage? It would be a lot of thought into when to use what bite for which.
Yeah, so but just look at how giddy you were to talk about this. It already started the creative juices.
It definitely just gets you thinking about like, what do you do? And and then the other idea of like the tail growing. Imagine being like a lizard folk who already has a tail, growing another tail. So then do you have 2 tails, or do you just use the tail you already had?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of creative story elements too, let alone the the gameplay aspect of it. What what happened to you, like what exactly caused these mutations or whatever.
Hmm.
But I think that that's what's great about this book as a whole, is that it does get you thinking creatively. In the DM section, we'll look at a little later. If anything, even if this book isn't like groundbreaking for some of the ideas they have, it is things that D&D did not have yet, and now people are thinking about new ways to play.
Yeah, I do
Right?
also think that the tail growth is an awesome, fun little thing. It's an
Oh, so cool.
extra D8 to your AC when you get attacked, which is just for one attack, but it's still a fun little like almost shield for barbarians,
Right.
which is fun.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the ranger a little bit. I feel like the ranger. It's funny. It kind of came up last night in our game in Icewind Dale. Andrew said he feels a little underwhelmed by the ranger. The
Mm-hmm.
ranger is one of those things I feel like they've reprinted. They've changed wordings. Um, let's take a look at some of the things the ranger gets here. So I guess they've I have a lot of optional class features. Every class gets these basically. These are things you can swap out. So like, let's see, let's go to right here. So you can basically replace natural explorer. I'm gonna make this look good on camera here. You can replace natural explorer feature with this one. Your unsurpassed explorer and survivor, both in the wilderness and in dealing with others in your travels. So you gain the canny benefit below, and you gain an additional benefit below when you reach 6th level and 10th level. So canny says that you choose one of your skills. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make with that chosen skill. So kind of like expertise, right? With the
Mm-hmm.
rogue. Um, you can also read, speak, and write 2 additional languages of your choice. Now, again, I don't know how good that is at first level. Um, I mean, it's pretty cool, especially like if you want to say do survival. But the natural explorer feature is actually quite good if you're in your terrain. I don't know if these benefits, because these are all options to choose from, if these benefits and these class features are things that you're gonna always take over the original source.
Right.
Um,
And I think this comes from, again, the ability for a character concept to not have to uh, sacrifice a or
the pigeonholing, right?
maybe a DM not having to sacrifice exploration
Yeah,
because a character chose a favorite terrain. Is that what this replaces? I'm sorry,
yeah,
or maybe.
exactly. So it replaces the fact that Andrew gets to always find people in the favored terrain, um, never get lost, that sort of thing. It's those like it doesn't really give you um, hard gameplay rules. Like it's not going to increase. Um, it's not a damage dealing thing. It's more of like a RP, but it can be really useful, especially in like place like Icewind Dale. But if you're in a campaign where you're going to be going, you might maybe one session you're going to be going to the Arctic, one session you're going to be going to a forest. If it's a more traditional fantasy setting where you're kind of going all over, picking your natural explorer, like the specific terrain, may not be as good, right? Because in Icewind Dale it's really good, but here it might not. In a regular campaign setting, it might not be so good.
or
And
or
this,
you pick the wrong terrain for the
yeah,
type of campaign. You pick a
yeah,
desert and you show up and they're like, we're running Curse of Strahd, and
yeah,
well, you're in the forest.
right.
And
Although I do hope that your DM would let you all know ahead of time what you're
yeah.
playing. But yes, yeah, exactly. That's kind of it.
Um,
So, in our Icewind Dale, it's great. But
yeah.
in a campaign where you could be going all over, maybe you don't want to have that feature and you want to just double up on a skill.
Again,
So
as a
anyway,
DM, you don't want to hinder your ability to kind of challenge the players in a harsher environment where something like that could kind of make the exploration less exploratory. I don't know.
yeah, I know what you mean. Like make it worthwhile doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And one of the cool things here is they have new fighting styles. So you can do blind fighting. So you have blind sight within 10 feet. which is so cool. You can see invisible creatures. Awesome. Druidic warrior, you learn 2 cantrips, so you can be kind of more, ranger always kind of was like the cousin of the druid, so now you can be even closer to druid in this case.
And they otherwise wouldn't get cantrips. I don't believe
No,
rangers ever get cantrips. So this is a
no,
good way for a ranger to get 2 cantrips that they can cast.
yep, exactly. And it's just, gives your character some more versatility, some more options. If you have a smaller group, 3 players or something like that, you need an extra, magic user. Now you've got it. And thrown weapon fighting, which, oh god, I wish when I remember I made that character who was the ranger in Mike's campaign, Tujunga,
Oh
the
yeah.
based on like the Aztec warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I would have totally taken some sort of like throwing axe, or I did take it, but I would have totally done this thrown
Yeah,
weapon
you
fighting.
have.
So gain +2 to my damage rolls with my thrown weapon. So I just had tons of axes. It would have been so cool. All right. Anyway, so those are some of the base ranger things, and then
I
you get
think
into the archetypes. The Fey Wanderer. I didn't really read through all the archetypes, but I just know that the ranger was sorely lacking in options. I mean, I feel like
the other thing is it in here? Oh, the Beastmaster companions. This is the other big
that was
update
yes,
for the ranger.
yeah, because there's terrible companions as the rules in the PHB are.
Right, and
So
this
you got some cool ones here.
kind of pulls from the rules that they created for the Battlesmith and some of the other ones. The language was a little bit confusing for me in some of this, which I'm not sure if you have any insight on this. So normally the Battlesmith, and I believe one of the other characters that in this book gets a companion that can attack on their turn. And so the rules here, it says, in combat, the beast acts during your turn. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action on your turn to command it to take another action. That's standard. That's how the Battlemaster or the Battlesmith works, and the other ones. The action can be one in its stack block or some other action. So that's like the help, the use an object, or one of the actions in its block. You can also sacrifice one of your attacks when you take the attack action to command the beast to take the attack action. So that's where that was this line that confused me. So do you have to, is that in addition to the command you give it, or is like, so
Yeah,
you can,
that's the way I read it. So in combat, like I said, it acts on your turn and uses it can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes is dodge, right? Like that's all, like you were saying, that's what the standard is. But you can take a bonus action, and that bonus action can be an attack. So you can attack, and your bonus action would allow your companion to attack.
right.
Problem is, there's a lot of bonus action things the ranger could do, like Hunter's
So
Mark.
it's where you can also sacrifice one of your attacks when you take the attack action to command the beast to take the attack action.
Oh,
So
yeah. So like, let's say you had 2 attacks.
So I can attack once, command the beast to attack as one of my attacks, and then bonus action have the beast attack again.
Yeah, because it says one of your attacks when you take the attack action. So if you had multiple attacks as part of one attack action, you could trade one of them for the beast to do its attack action.
So if I only have one attack, I can bonus action, have the beast attack, take my attack action, sacrifice it, and then have the beast attack twice.
Yeah, you can't. I guess you can't ever get to a scenario where you kind of double dip and you get all your attacks and the beast gets its attack. But if you have multiple attacks, you could both attack on a turn, which might be worthwhile. I guess it just depends on your beast. Depends on where you are in the battlefield.
Okay, I guess this gives the beast extra attacks that you and your beast share your extra attacks. I guess that's where I was confused, because like a Battlesmith, I guess they can't give their attacks to the beast. They have to The
Okay, so
beast can
then,
only take one attack.
all right,
That's, I
yeah.
think, where I was confused
So there's a
initially on.
slight difference then, and this would then give you a little more versatility then.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so that
Yeah.
that was where I was a little confused. It felt like it was a little. I was confused at first.
Well, it is wordy. It is wordy.
Yeah.
You know, if we count the sentences here and look at the clauses, I'm sure it is. It could be simplified, but you know,
It's always it's always when they use the word the capital A attack and the lowercase a attack.
oh god, yeah, you're right. Yep, your
But
attacks when you take the attack action. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you have a suite of attacks that you could share, basically. You know.
gotcha.
Okay,
Okay,
so you know, let's
but
we are
but again,
we could go
these
on
these
forever.
beasts are fantastic. They
Oh yes,
uh,
the beast. Sorry,
play
yeah,
off
go ahead.
of your they play off of your abilities. They're summoned kind of fey creatures, almost like familiars. You can always just summon whatever type you need, uh,
Right.
almost at any time. I mean, there's restrictions, but I mean, these are this is kind of where I was hoping it would go once I saw Battlesmith and how well they did on that, like on creating companion characters for you to bring along.
Yeah, I think that the goal here is to keep it simple, straightforward. You know, you can, like you said, pick what the beast really looks like. It's got a certain set of rules, and it's easy to remember. You just need this page basically. So, all right. Why don't we head over to the next section now? There are just so many classes, and
There's
it's
so
very
many
hard to go
classes.
through them all. But um, the next one is group patrons, and this one is probably the shortest of the chapters. So let's talk about the patrons and how they work. First off, what this is referring to is any sort of group affiliation you might have. It's not necessarily um, like a warlock patron or anything like that. It's like you could have a guild, um, a crime syndicate. I can think of a bunch of ones here. An academy, even. You know, you're basically part of this group, this association, and it gives you a reason to be adventuring together, and even perhaps storylines drive from it. What's your take here?
I really appreciate this as like helping build the world that you're probably going to be populating with, and um, how your characters interact with the world, and really can give if you're doing because a lot of the sorry I'm like I've got too many thoughts. So a lot of the campaigns, the modules, all have just like a pretty linear storyline, and they kind of really tell you everything that you need to know. But if you're doing a lot of homebrew or trying to string a group of short adventures together, having this kind of patron system where people are handing out the quests for you, or if you're on a quest and you need assistance because you don't have a thing that you need, and knowing that there's a group out there that can help you is really helpful for a lot of groups, I think, and for players to know that they have some assistance, and building out a system where you can get that help without having to sacrifice, I don't know, like a lot of work
Right,
or,
time
or
getting
an
the characters together.
adventuring
Yeah,
time
yeah,
to do.
yeah. I can tell you for sure in my horror campaign when we had our kind of session zero, we discussed how the group would get together, and they basically are employed by an adventurers guild that investigates supernatural occurrences. So that's how they came together, and they're adventuring and they're getting leads. They're kind of like detectives, basically, but they're getting leads from this group, this organization, and it's great for one shots because you don't want to spend a lot of time getting the characters together because you know you time is precious in a one shot if you're trying to finish it in a reasonable amount of time. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they do have a bunch of charts here for each of the types that they list in the book. Um, you know, they have a random D6 chart that can give you some, you know, I guess some variations of whatever the the patron is. Academies that you could go to, crime syndicates that would exist in the world. Just more options for you. Although you could pick it randomly.
Religious orders.
Yeah,
It's fun. Uh,
an ancient being, a group of ancient beings could be dragons, could be Cthulhu monsters,
it could be a lich. Apparently,
could be
that could always be fun. A benevolent lich that
that
somehow
you
has
think is
hired
benevolent.
heroes.
Yeah, that you think is benevolent, or a military even. I mean, right there, that's pretty straightforward. So I think this is a lot of really good inspiration. I don't know if anybody is like getting this book and is like, okay, we have to roll for our patron now. Like, I don't think that's how this works. I think it's
No.
more of a source of inspiration and for the DM really to kind of think about and bring up at session 0.
I'm wondering if I don't have it, but I wonder if um, the Penny Arcade book, Acquisitions Inc. I think if that had anything to do with this kind of patron kind of thing, because that whole book I think is about starting a guild
Yeah,
and being part of like this Acquisitions Incorporated industry, not industry, I guess guild that goes around and does adventures, and you're basically starting a franchise of this company,
right.
and
Mickey
how that
D's.
well
You're starting a McDonald's.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah
adventure at McDonald's.
make adventures or
Yeah.
adventure kings. We don't
Yep.
we don't mix that thing.
And great. Look at his art here. It's hilarious. This dude falling on his face.
Oh yes, I like the
And
caption of this
look at that.
picture.
The caption. What does it
The
say
caption
here? In the
is
city of
the
Sigil,
caption.
Guildmaster Reese realizes that finding capable recruits is one of the main challenges of being a patron. Yeah, and look at the face palm. That's great.
Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, so that's chapter 2. Chapter 3 gets into all the magic. So there are spells and a spell list here that the book goes into. These are new spells or reskin spells from other books like Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide are reprinted here too. Booming Blade, Green Flame Blade. But it goes through and gives you a list, easy, handy reference, which classes can take them.
There are some slight changes, I think, to a few of these.
I did hear that. Booming Blade, I think, had a
Booming
change.
Blade has a small change in that it requires a weapon it now has a material component of a melee weapon worth at least 1 silver piece.
Gotcha. So that would get rid of which weapons? Because
it doesn't allow you to use your there was like a psychic, not like a psychic, like a magical weapon you could conjure, I think, that you couldn't use now as your booming blade weapon because it's not a physical weapon worth
a
1
physical,
silver.
yeah, needing to be a physical weapon could. I see how it could be a problem. So if you had even just like I guess shillelagh, right?
I think shillelagh would still work. I mean, it would
Because
still
it's
work because it's a stick. I
no,
mean, maybe
the spell I should say. Sorry, the spell shillelagh. It brings a fake.
no, it
not
just
fake.
empowers a stick.
Oh, does it? I thought you
Yeah.
need it. It forms something in your hand. No.
No, it just
Oh, okay.
it's any stick that you're holding suddenly does 1d8 damage
There you
instead
go.
of 1d6.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So minor change there, but change nonetheless. Let's look at the Tasha's spells because I told Stefano that we were going to watch or talk all about Tasha's hideous laughter tonight. So let's go look at the Tasha spells. So there are, I believe, 3.
3.
1, 2, 3 Tasha's spells, and they are here on page 115 in the book. Let's read through them and what's that?
If you're following along at home, turn to page 118.
115, CJ. You got to pay attention.
Sorry, I'm not looking at it on the book. I have it on D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
So.
This is the teacher coming out of me.
It actually tells you Tasha's Cauldron of Editing, page 115.
Oh, look at that.
Huh.
So let's read through. We'll go through them, the 3 of them, and give our opinions here. Tasha's Caustic Brew. It's a first level evocation spell. It's one action casting time, self range, verbal somatic, material components. It's a bit of rotten food. And the duration is up to 1 minute with concentration. A stream of acid emanates from you in a line 30 feet long, 5 feet wide, in a direction that you choose. Uh, each creature in the line must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or be covered in acid for the spell's duration, or until the creature uses its action to scrape or wash the acid off itself or another creature. A creature covered in the acid takes 2d4 acid damage at the start of its turns. Thoughts?
That's a pretty nice acid spell. Um, 30-foot line,
Yeah,
2d4
30-foot
damage.
line.
Not the biggest damage. I mean,
I
seems
think the big
pretty.
thing here is that it just could be every turn if the enemy doesn't spend its action. So, you
Good.
know, it depends what you're fighting. If you can get a group in a line, it's not bad. It'll just
Yeah,
keep pumping out damage. And 2d4, that adds up, you know?
it adds up over time. Yeah,
Yeah. You know, 2 to
especially
2 to 8 damage every start of their turn, you know?
I also don't know. I don't believe acid damage is that well resisted either. So it could be.
Yeah. It's not like poison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not like poison,
Although
not like fire. You
dex
know.
checks are generally easy to overcome.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you like acid, it might be the one for you.
I mean, if you want to like stick to like an acid archetype where you have like acid splash, Tasha's caustic brew. I don't know any other acid
You want to
spells.
be an acid Pokemon.
You want to be the yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
throw an
exactly.
acid.
Fits the theme. Fits the theme. All right, Tasha's Mind Whip. Second level enchantment spell. Casting time is one action. Range is 90 feet. It's got verbal components only, and it's 1 round to cast. You physically lash out at one creature you can see within range. The target must make an intelligence saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 3d6 psychic damage, and it can't take a reaction until the end of its next turn. Moreover, on its next turn, it must choose whether it gets a move, an action, or a bonus action. It gets only one of the three. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage and suffers none of the spell's other effects. So it's a damage dealing spell, 3d6 psychic, which is kind of cool. Psychic damage is a little rare. And then you get to limit the opponent.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean, psychic
only
damage
taking
is
one is
always
big.
great. Sorry, what?
I would say only taking one of those actions is big.
Yeah, and psychic damage is always great. Psychic damage is definitely another type of damage that's very hard to resist. Not a lot of creatures can't take it or have resistance or immunity to it. Um, this is again a second level spell. It's got a good range of 90 feet, no concentration.
Right.
Uh,
Also, another interesting thing here is at higher levels you can cast it at additional targets as opposed to doing more damage or anything like that. So, you know, you can at the third level or higher you can target one additional creature for each slot above second. So that's pretty good. If there's a higher levels you get, that scales pretty well.
yeah, definitely.
You could take out a whole opposing party.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which is the higher level spell, Tasha's Otherworldly Guise, 6th level transmutation spell. I'm gonna just make sure this can be seen here. There we go. So this one is a bonus action. Love bonus action spells.
Gotta love
It's
bonus action spell.
targets yourself. Its components are verbal somatic, and the material is an object engraved with a symbol of the outer planes that's worth at least 500 gold pieces. So good luck finding that. But if you do, it's a concentration spell of up to 1 minute. You utter an incantation. You draw on the magic of the lower planes or the upper planes, your choice, to transform yourself. You gain the following benefits until the spell ends. You're immune to fire and poison.
Uh,
Um, upper
or
planes or the radiant and necrotic. No, sorry, I just totally mixed that up. The fire and poison damage immunity is lower planes, which makes sense. Radiant and necrotic immunity is upper planes. You're immune to the poison condition, again, that's the lower planes, or the charm condition, the upper planes. Spectral wings appear on your back, giving you a flying speed of 40 feet. You have +2 to your armor class. Oh my god. All your weapon attacks are magical. When you make a weapon attack, you can use your spell casting ability modifier instead of strength or dex for the attack and damage rolls. And you can attack twice instead of once when you take the attack action on your turn. You ignore this benefit if you already have this feature, like extra attack that lets you attack more than once. So, the really like one of the ultimate buffing spells here.
Yeah.
You just get a ton of perks.
A lot of perks, a lot of great things. Not entirely sure. So this is a sorcerer, warlock, and wizard spell.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I did not look that up in the front here, but I believe so.
Fortunately, it has it here on
D&D Beyond.
D&D Beyond. But yeah, sorcerer, warlock, or wizard spell only. I'm not entirely sure how often these characters are running in the front lines that they need to make melee weapon attacks, but having those resistances and the immunities, no resistances, just straight up immunities.
Straight up immunity.
Is really powerful. Getting that extra AC again, maybe that is enough to entice you to run into the front lines, but I'm not sure you're going to have a weapon that you're going to want to use.
Well, don't forget, CJ, you won't have to run anywhere. You have wings.
That's true. You can fly in to do these hacks while you have your bonus AC and all your immunities, and you get an extra attack when you normally these character classes would again only have one attack.
Yeah.
So, and at 6th level, this could be a big deal, and it's a bonus action, so you can do this before you run in. So that this is a lot better than the other one. What's the other? The one tensor is it Tensor's transformation?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I believe it's let me see. Tensor's transformation, yeah. So this would be, I guess, compared to that.
You want to read it?
I got Tensor's transformation pulled up. This is another 6th level spell. This is a full action to cast. And it has a concentration of 10 minutes. You endow yourself with endurance and martial prowess fueled by magic until the spell ends. You can't cast spells, and you gain the following benefits. So you can't cast spells anymore. You gain 50 temporary hit points.
Nice.
If any of these remain when the spell ends, they are lost. You have advantage on attack rolls you make with simple and martial weapons. When you hit a target with a weapon attack, the target takes an extra 2d12 force damage. You have proficiency with all armor, shields, simple weapons, and martial weapons. You have proficiency in strength and constitution saving throws. You can attack twice instead of once when you take the attack action on your turn. You ignore this benefit if you already have a feature like extra attack. Immediately after the spell ends, you must succeed a DC 15 constitution saving throw or suffer 1 level of exhaustion.
Gotta be honest. Yeah, go ahead. Finish it up.
This has a material component requirement of a few hairs from a bull. So you don't need to spend 500 gold on a orb. You just need to find a cow in the middle of the field somewhere, pluck those hairs right out.
Yeah. Okay, so what level spell is that?
This is a 6th level, but this is also only a wizard spell.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you really were to go, I think you could create a nice Venn diagram of like what exactly is unique in this, even though some of the things are different a little bit. Like there's immunities to damage here, bonus saving throws. It's hard to, I don't know the math on which one would be better, but for certain things. But
it's definitely an interesting comparison between Tensor and
Tasha.
Tasha, and how they approach combat differently.
And actually, that's a good point. Tensors sounded way more like you become a fighter, basically. Mm-hmm. In this one, I can't tell you, flying is so good, right?
Right.
So like if you get wings, like you get a fly speed, if you're a wizard, a sorcerer, or warlock, you just fly up away from danger and just launch fireballs. You can't do that. Or tensors, you can't cast spells. So
Right.
I don't know if you want to become the fighter, if you're a
Well, you're
wizard.
doing an additional 2d12 every time you
I
hit something.
I know, but do you want to be the fighter if you're a wizard? I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know. Again, either one, you're turning into a fight. I mean,
You're turning into a much more powerful creature, yes. Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah. I
again, the
like what you
cost.
said there,
That,
though. I like what you said about how it shows you more the personalities of Tensor and Tasha.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
love to see Big B's transformation next. We'll see. You just turn into a giant hand.
Big hand. You're like the hand from Super Smash Bros. That just
Yeah.
gets down and crushes people.
Uh,
Mm. All right,
what other
we got to talk
transform
about
spells?
tattoos. By the way,
Oh, tattoos. These are fantastic.
tell us
Some of
about
the
tattoos, CJ.
tattoos are so the way these work. They're a little bit like spell scrolls in that um, they're just needle objects that you kind of press against your skin, and
Yeah,
then they
magically
imbue the magic
infuse.
into you. It's not
Yeah.
like you have to sit there and give yourself a tattoo
See,
or anything like
that's what
that.
I want. That's
Yeah,
what I
I think
wanted.
that's what some people want, but I mean, you probably have to maybe put it into maybe there's a magic tattoo gun that you have to somehow use that uses up the needle if
Yeah,
you want. But yeah, you just hold the needle kind of up to your skin, and it imbues the spell that's already uh, imbued in the needle into your skin, into
right.
your uh, abilities. And some of these are fantastic. Some of them are a little less exciting, but
So
um,
the more area the tattoo covers, the more powerful the spell. Is that correct?
I think it's kind of reversed if you want to think about it that way. Like you can think about it that way. It's more that like the more powerful the spell is, the more tattoo area it's going to cover on your body.
Gotcha. I see what you mean. Yeah. So a legendary tattoo is basically
It's going
two
to
full
cover your chest and your
sleeves
arms.
and your torso. So you're
Yeah,
completely tatted up. Yeah.
yeah. So someone's going to say, "Oh, that guy, he's got some really powerful tattoo. He's got some really powerful spell
Yeah.
lined up with his giant arm sleeves and
Right.
the uh, tattoo on his chest."
Right. Not just a little heart on your ankle. You know.
No,
No. This is the real deal here.
though there is that spell, I think.
Yeah, there is. There's a hand or foot. Yeah. So any of these tattoos stand out to you?
Yes, so I got into a little bit of a chat earlier today
CJ,
with
you
some of
got to
our.
stop getting into arguments
I
online.
didn't.
Okay.
This wasn't an argument. This was a little chat about some of the tattoos, and because in a different campaign, our DM gave us a kit similar to like he had this idea also of having magical tattoos. So he had written up rules for a magical tattoo kit that we could use to help tattoo spells onto our bodies if we ever came across like it required a spell scroll and time and money. These are just needles and you put it and you get. So it's a much simpler system than we had originally had. But some of one of the spells I found a lot of fun is because again you can place the tattoo anywhere on your body. It just has a amount of space it's going to take up
Mm-hmm.
when you tattoo it on your body. And the tattoo I was thinking of, which would be a lot of fun, is let me find it here. I believe it's, my computer's a little slow here. Coiling Grasp Tattoo. This is the one.
Okay, I'm gonna go and get to that page as well, so we could read it. Um, I agree though with the other DM you were talking about. I think that there should be a little bit more of a process. Be fun to role play. Also, maybe you know, going through an actual tattoo session to get the magic would be more realistic. But
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, like I said, the rules are up to me.
the rules are up to yes. So this is the wondrous item, uncommon, coiling, grasping tattoo. Normal attunement applies as if it's all the tattoos have the same attunement. You place the needle up against your skin, and the ink and the tattoo uh, appear on your skin. If you lose attunement, the needle reappears.
Oh, okay.
Um, then, so here, grasping tendrils. While the tattoo is on your skin, you can, as an action, cause the tattoo to extrude into inky tendrils,
Mm,
which reach for a creature you can see within 15 feet of you. The
mm,
creature must succeed on a DC 14 strength saving throw or take 3d6 force damage and be grappled by you. As an
mm.
action, the creature can escape the grapple by succeeding on a DC 14 strength athletics or dexterity acrobatics. The grapple also ends if you halt it, if the creature is ever more than 15 feet away from you, or if you use this tattoo on a different creature.
Okay. I could
My
imagine
thought
that. It's
was
gross.
to have this on my butt and how much fun it would be to have these
Uh,
inky tendrils come out your butt
oh my god. That's
and
too funny.
try and grasp at things.
Oh,
Just
so
as a
just
role play thought.
just
That was my initial thought. How much
it
fun that would be.
actually on the butt or tramp stamp.
Tramp stamp anywhere in the lower
Oh god.
region
That's a
would be
great.
an interesting place for having this tattoo. Although if you did just have it on your back and it kind of like came out kind of Doc Ock look with
Oh yeah.
like the
Sure.
you kind of grew those arms almost like Doctor Octopus and like
Sure.
started
Or you want to be
stuff.
more like Peter Parker, little
Yeah.
spider tattoo right here.
Oh yeah.
Comes out.
Have it on your arm. Just
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's
if
a
you want to
that's
be
a
like
cool one.
if you were in like a tame D&D group, that would be where you would
That
go.
yeah, that would be it. Yeah. All right. So let's keep
Otherwise,
going
put it on your
here.
butt.
Yeah, I'm all about it. All about it. The Demonomicon. We have to talk about this one. So, this one is big. This is like what Tasha is known for. So, I think probably just looking at timing here, we've been talking for quite some time. So let's go through this item and then jump to the final section, which is more like DM kind of perks and or ideas and stuff like that. But the Demonomicon of Igwilv, which is Tasha's other name, this is a wondrous item. It's an artifact, requires attunement. This is an expansive treatise documenting the abyss's infinite layers and inhabitants. The Demonomicon of Igwilv is the most thorough and blasphemous tome of demonology in the multiverse. The tome recounts both the oldest and the most current profanities of the abyss and demons. And it just goes on to talk about how demons really covet this book. And basically, if you have this book, you're like not safe. So, be careful. Random properties. So it has some random properties here. It follows the artifacts table in the DM guide. 2 minor beneficial properties, one minor detrimental property, and 1 major detrimental property. Do you have the DMG available?
I can pull it up.
If you want to just look at those, I'll continue to read through. So the book has 8 charges. It regains a D8 expended charges daily at dawn. You can use it in action to cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter. There you go, Stefano. Or expend 1 or more of its charges to cast one of the following spells. All right, and then you could basically it's a DC 20 save for all these spells: Magic Circle, Magic Jar, Planar Ally, Planar Binding, Plane Shift, Summon Fiend, and they all have a variety of different charges that are listed here in the book. You can also reference the Demonomicon whenever you make an intelligence check to discern information about demons or a wisdom survival check related to the abyss. When you do so, you can add your double proficiency bonus to the check. I mean, before we even continue on here, this is basically a item that is like the MacGuffin in a campaign. I mean, this is like your whole campaign could be based around finding this. You could end up having to go to the abyss. You know, the big bad evil guy at the end could be a demon lord. This has the entire campaign kind of written in it.
Yeah.
Um,
So some of the you want to see some here are
yeah,
some minor beneficial properties. I
yeah,
mean, they're again minor beneficial properties. While if you roll a D100 on a chart, possibilities are while attuned to the artifact, you have resistance against one damage type of the DM's choice.
hmm.
While attuned to the artifact, you can use an action to cast one first level spell chosen by the DM from it. After you cast the spell, roll a d6 on a 1 to 5. You can't cast it again until the next dawn. And then it goes up. It could possibly be a second level. It could possibly be a third level.
Okay,
Or it can give you a bonus to your AC.
okay. And what are
Um,
detrimental? What's a major detrimental
Major
property?
detrimental abilities. This is right. Let's go bottom 25%. Well, if you roll a 26 to 30, let's say,
Yeah.
the artifact imprisons a death slot. Each time you use one of the artifact's properties as an action, the slot has a 10% chance of escaping, whereupon it appears within 15 feet of you and attacks you.
Okay, that's detrimental.
That's pretty detrimental.
You don't want that.
When you become attuned to the artifact, one of your ability scores is reduced by 2 at random. A greater restoration spell restores the ability to normal.
Okay, that would be annoying. I don't know if that would be as bad. I actually think I'd rather have that because odds are it's not going to be the one ability you want. So
Yeah.
I think I'd almost rather that, but you can't do that all the time. You know what I mean?
No.
So okay.
And one other one, and so they have two. 61 to 65, you take 4d10 psychic damage when you become attuned to the artifact.
Mm.
Or if you just happen to roll a little bit higher on that roll, you can possibly take 8d10 psychic damage when you become attuned to the artifact.
Fantastic.
51 to 60 or 61 to 65. That little tiny range in there where you're going to take some psychic damage.
That makes a difference. Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Yeah. All right. So, you got to pay the price to use this book.
Yeah.
You get Fiendish Scourging. You can use magic to cause pain to to fiends. So while carrying the book, you can make damage roll for a spell you cast against a fiend. You use the maximum result instead of rolling. So, fighting devils with this. Fantastic. Awesome. Ensnarement. You can basically cast Magic Circle, naming only fiends, or Planar Binding, targeting a fiend, and it's cast at 9th level, regardless of what spell slot you use. So that's pretty powerful. Additionally, the fiend has a disadvantage on saving throws against the spell, which is, like many of you know if you've played Descent to Avernus, everything's got magic resistance. This basically reverses it on them. And then Containment. The first 10 pages are blank. As an action, while holding the book, you can target a fiend that you can see. You basically can trap a fiend in the book. It's DC 20 Charisma saving throw with disadvantage to become trapped in one of the empty blank pages. It's funny. It fills it with detailings of the trapped creature's widely known name and depravities. Once you use it, can't be used again until the next dawn. So once a day, you can just trap creatures in here. That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty,
a fiend
pretty
in there. Yeah, so I think if you're using this, you have to basically incorporate devils and demons into your campaign. It's got to be, because to get the most use of this book, and if it's going to be a focal point, got to have a campaign like that. Descent into Avernus could work really well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else from you, CJ, on this?
I'm
sorry.
A little bit earlier, how much the last thing in the book, the teeth of Dalvernar.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Actually, I totally forgot. Destroying the Demonomicon.
Oh, yes.
So before we move on, in order to destroy this book, 6 different demon lords, ready, must each tear out a 1/6 of the book's pages. If this occurs, the pages reappear after 24 hours. Before all those hours pass, anyone who opens the book's remaining binding is transported to a nascent layer of the abyss that lies hidden within the book. At the heart of this deadly, semi-sentient domain lies a long-lost artifact, Fraz Blue's staff. The staff is dragged from the pocket plane. The tome is reduced into a mundane and quite out-of-date copy of the Tome of Zix, the work that served as the foundation of the Demonomicon. Once the staff emerges, the Demon Lord Fraz Blue instantly knows. So, again, if you're trying to destroy this book, nearly impossible. You have to be able to tame 6 demon lords into doing this.
You have to get 6 demon lords to agree
Yep.
to doing something together.
Yep, exactly. So, Yunagu, can you please rip this page? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. The last one was Teeth.
The Teeth of Dalvernar. And this is a lot of fun. It's a little bit like a deck of many things. It has a random chart. It has a random rolls on a chart, and it has random effects. So I'm gonna just paraphrase this to try and do quickly. Basically, the artifact is a pouch of teeth from various sources, and when you want to use it, you attune to it, and you reach into the pouch and randomly pull out a tooth from the pouch, and you roll a d20 on the chart to find out which tooth you pulled. When you pull the tooth, you can do one of 2 things with it. You can sow it, which is to either bury it underground, like bury it in the ground, or throw it into a body of water that's at least 50 feet by 50 feet. And depending on which of the two, or you can place the tooth in your own mouth, replacing one of your current teeth. So those are your 2 options: put it in your mouth or bury it. And depending on which of those 2 things you do, a different effect will happen. And that's filled out in the chart. And some of these are fantastic. And the first one is if you get a 1. There's also some stuff about the story. There's stories associated with each tooth, and that helps you in how to destroy the teeth if you ever want to do that. But the first one, 1d20, you roll 1. The tail of the tooth is the staring cats of Uldendar. It's an ivory cat molar. If you bury this tooth, you summon 9 cats.
Oh my god.
Just 9 cats. Oh, and the thing about when you summon the creatures, they appear right near where you buried it, and they hang out for about 10 minutes, and they listen to your commands, they follow you, they do whatever you tell them to do, they speak the same languages as you. So these 9 cats show up, and they just kind of follow you around and do what you tell them to do.
That's hilarious.
Which is hilarious. But then you read what happens when you put the tooth in your mouth, which is the tooth has 8 charges. As an action, you can spend 1 charge to cast the Revivify spell from the tooth. If you are dead at the start of your turn, the tooth automatically casts Revivify on you. So when you figure that out, are you seeing what happens?
You have 9 lives.
You have 9 lives.
Yep.
From getting this tooth. It's such a great. I read that. I was like, that's so fun. That's so cool.
It's a little on the nose with the 9 cats, but it's just hilarious that you have 9 cats like following you around.
Yeah, for 10 minutes and then they disappear.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100%. You have 9 lives. That's awesome.
It's hilarious. You have 9 lives, and it's a lot of fun. The next one, I don't know if you can find number 18.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
You can scroll to that or move the book to that one.
Yep, got it.
So this one is The Last Tarask.
Oh, yeah.
And when you bury this one, a Tarask appears.
Yeah.
And unlike the other things that will listen to you and do what you tell them to do and follow you around for 10 minutes, this one ignores you and all of your commands, but it only hangs out for 1d4 rounds and then vanishes. So it doesn't stick around
only
as
1d4
long,
rounds.
But for up to 4 rounds,
yeah,
a Tarask
got a
shows
Tarask
up.
with you, yeah. Oh God!
mess
Imagine
with
being
you.
the dungeon master during a campaign like this, and you just randomly roll this.
Yes.
Dear God!
And then if you put this tooth in your mouth, you you just do double damage to objects and structures. That's really the only benefit. However, it
Right.
has a detriment of if you take 20 or more damage, you have to succeed a DC 18 Wisdom saving throw, or you just start destroying whatever creatures are
Right.
nearby.
Murderous fury. Yeah,
Uh,
this is very, very clever. I like the theme of it. I like how it could be used in the game. It's not just like, click a button and here you go. Like you've got to put this
and
tooth in your mouth. That's hilarious. Gross. It's clever and themed well. Everything kind of pairs well with the
yeah,
description. I'm a big
some of
fan.
them are great. And again, so there is also a consequence if you pull a tooth and you don't want to either. So if you pull tooth 18 and you're like, well, I don't want a Tarax to show up, but I also don't want to have to fight whatever I want, and you don't do either of the two, the tooth will randomly choose to do one of the two for itself.
Oh wow. So it's got some
So
sentience.
yeah, if you don't sew or implant the tooth, roll a die at the end of your turn. On an even number, the tooth vanishes and creatures appear as if you sewed the tooth, but are hostile towards you.
Hmm.
If you roll an odd number, the tooth automatically replaces one of your teeth as if you implanted it. So
Okay.
you can not only randomly choose a tooth, you can also randomly allow the tooth to decide what it wants to do.
Yeah. Wow. Lot to this. Yeah.
Lot to
Very
this,
random.
but also
Very clever.
it brings a lot of chaos and fun to
Yeah.
the table.
I do love like random things that happen in D&D.
Yeah,
So,
random chance things are
yeah.
always a lot of fun, and the chaos that it brings to the table can always uh, spice up an otherwise perhaps dull session
Yeah,
of
totally.
things going on.
And for the DM as well because they don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
So, the last section in the book and we're pretty much here at the end. Hold on one second. We're pretty much here at the end. But it's Dungeon Master tools. So, some guides, charts, things for the DM to help them, prepare and get some, like I said, some insight, creativity, and also some guidance on things that are not so clear in the DMG, like Session Zero. Now, we had a Session Zero for our Icewind Dale campaign.
before you get to this, just remind just a good time to remind people to like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitch. And as we get to the end here,
You're so good at this, CJ. Yes.
I'm
Please,
trying.
please like, subscribe,
Like,
follow.
subscribe, follow, hit the bell, and stick around and hopefully listen to more of us talk.
Yeah.
Also, if when this goes on uh, on YouTube, leave a comment below. Tell us what we missed. Tell us your favorite part of Tasha's, and maybe we'll come back and we'll do another follow-up session and talk more about the things
There
that we missed.
is, yeah, exactly. We could always cover something specific. There's a lot here. I mean, we're
There's a
kind
lot
of
to
going
cover.
through
I'm
it.
sure if someone watching has a favorite part of the book that we missed and they want to hear about it, they want us to talk about it, you could even bring Stefano in or Stefano in, and he'll tell you. You can get his opinions on things.
Yeah,
He can
that's
tell you
true.
about how the city is.
Nobody wants his opinion though. That's the problem.
No,
Nobody wants his opinion. We should have talked about that at our Session Zero because he's been so opinionated, Icewind Dale. Very opinionated. So Session Zero, CJ.
Yeah,
The Session
go back
Zero.
and watch Session Zero of Icewind Dale.
Yeah,
Link in the description.
and I can put that here. It should be this way, that way. It'll be up there in that direction. Nope, the other one, the other direction. It'll be up there, yeah. So in Icewind Dale, our Session Zero, which you can watch, is we had a really good Session Zero where the group came together and talked about the background, how their characters got together. It actually made it so much easier for me because you made a lot of decisions that sometimes DMs even have to like piece together. We were talking about that earlier in the discussion. But it's also important because if you play with people that you know very well, Session Zeros are a breeze. You really don't have to do anything. But if you're playing with people that you don't know, and maybe you met at a gaming club or you met them at a game store, and you want to be inclusive, it's a good time to discuss what everyone's cool with, what their expectations are. I've seen things online. I just don't play with too many strangers. I generally know everybody that I play with, although there have been our open house at the club where we played with some people that I just got to know for the first time. I generally don't um, put anything into a game that's, you know, uh, I'm sure like overly violent or, you know, my horror campaign is pretty violent, but again, everyone came in with those expectations and we discussed the expectations of it at a session 0. And those are things you should do. And it goes through a list of things that you might want to discuss, like not only those gameplay perspectives like party formation, what types of classes you might want to get, but the social contract. And this is what I really wanted to talk about here. What are your opinions on the social contract?
I don't think I read this part.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. Well, I can generally sum it up for you. So basically, it's talking about the things that are unwritten rules at the table, like respecting the players that you're playing with. The dungeon master is obviously the be all end all when it comes to rules, but there's a fine line as a DM as to what you should do to your players. The game is theirs just as much as it is yours, and vice versa, right? As a
Mhm.
player, think about how much time and effort goes into a dungeon master running and planning a session. Um, if you haven't DM'd before, um, you should talk to your DM and think about what goes into it. I can tell you right now, my wife can tell you that I spend hours and hours preparing for all the games that I play, and it takes a lot. So before you run off and talk about how bad a session was, or think about the people you're playing with and how much effort it takes to creating this game. And general rules of respect, things you do and don't do at the table. So what do you think, CJ? Is this a good thing to include in a book?
I think this is a great thing to include in the book. It reminds me of a time. So I had gone to a game store to play story-based tabletop games, some more story-based role-playing games, and it was kind of like a random meetup of people. And whenever we would get together and start the game, uh, the facilitator that was usually running the games would place a card in the middle of the table, and this was and he would say like, "This is um, the uncomfortable card. You
Right,
don't
the
have to
X
like
card.
the what?
I think it's called the X card in some
Yeah, the X
circles. Yeah.
card. Yeah,
Hmm.
and you would place it in the middle of the table, and like if anything ever got like out of hand, made you uncomfortable, made you feel like you were not happy with the way things were going, just touch the card, no explanation needed, and then just we refocus the way that the group was going. And I think that's um, that. Fortunately, I never actually saw the card having to be used, but it's always a good thing to know
Yeah.
that there's a space to uh, exercise your discomfort or
Yeah.
without necessarily having to explain it. And if something does come up, the a lot of discussions that I see where people are uncomfortable with something either a DM did or another player did in the session, the number one response to all of those complaints is always talk about it. Go to your DM, let them know how you feel, let them know that this made you uncomfortable. Go to the other player and let them know that like you felt uncomfortable about it. And that's having this kind of social contract and having this like out there like as something that people should be aware of is a
Yeah.
big thing.
And they have
And
a whole section about this, about hard and soft limits, about things that you think you'd be okay with, things that you're not okay with, should be discussed ahead of time, and the option of being able to quickly in the moment, you know, showing your discomfort. Um, I've never used one of these cards, but like I said, most of the time, if I'm playing with people that I don't know, I usually err on the side of caution. I never would bring something up that could, but you never know. You don't know. You don't know what people have thought about and just didn't bring up. So, it's something to think about when you're playing with people you don't, well, to playing with anybody really. Because, you could be really good friends and know someone really well, but then first time this ever comes up, they're uncomfortable talking about it in the game. Um,
yeah,
Although, I do feel like when we play, especially you, me, our Icewind Dale group, if Joey's involved, it's generally where there's no limits. That's just the way it is with our
Yeah.
groups, but not every group is that way. Um,
Yes,
and again, not every group plays with their close friends.
that's also true. Yeah,
So
and yeah, knowing your limits, knowing
yeah,
what you can, how comfortable the people you're playing with are, is always important, and very important when starting a new session or starting a new campaign with players that you haven't played with before.
yep. Expectations are big, and you should go over them before you play. Then the last parts of it, the DM guide, is house rules. It tells you how to implement them. I mean, I do this all the time. There's just options for things to include in your game if you would like to. The sidekick rules, starting levels, hit variant uses for hit points, ability score increases. I mean, I don't want to go over these because they are just too many things to talk about, but
That's
they're
all.
all useful things that I think a lot of us have been doing already. Um, and then finally, in the end here, you've got some supernatural locations, places almost like that are, Twilight Zone like, the Mirror Zone. Uh, there was one in here that I saw before that was excellent. Where was it? Yes, here. And I actually don't want to. If you're a player in my horror campaign, turn off right now. I don't want you to see any of this.
Avert your eyes.
Avert your eyes, please. But my goodness, a mimic colony. An entire settlement of mimics. So you can see this picture of this artwork here.
I see this. This
Look
is
at this.
what page are you on there?
Page 167 for those following along at home. This is a seemingly innocent picture of two old ladies drinking tea, but everything is a mimic.
Everything is a mimic.
Everything, from the
Amazing.
potted plants, the deck, the awning or whatever this is, the chairs, the teacups, the pot, everything is a mimic. How fantastic is this?
Does that mean the women are mimics too?
Yes, either they are unsuspecting victims or they are mimics themselves. So
That's
I
incredible.
when I saw this, I immediately thought of my horror campaign, and I really hope that none of them watch this section because this is going to be awesome. I don't know when I'm going to implement this yet, but it's on the back burner right now. It's there. It's in the back of my mind. It will be used.
This is a fantastic piece of artwork. That's
It really it really is, right? My goodness. So, God, I can't.
it even has a baby mimic like stat block.
Yep, a juvenile mimic. Yep, yep. So good. So yeah. Anyway, uh, that's just some cool stuff at the end of the book here. There's also
Yeah.
traps and puzzles at the end,
The
which are
puzzles are
really great
fantastic.
because
If
what's
I
that?
would have loved to have more time to go over this. Some of the puzzles are great. It's like you don't want to read too much into it if you're a player, because if your DM tries to
Yeah,
use these puzzles against you, you might spoil it for yourself. But these uh, these these are very useful puzzles and really fun things to try and integrate into your campaign. And they really show you a lot of great ways to do it.
yeah, and one thing the book I think fifth edition is lacking is there aren't that many traps and puzzles or ideas for them. So you know,
Yeah, I think there was like a little section in Xanathar's on puzzles, I think, but
yeah,
not, or no,
minimal,
I think it was on traps. Xanathar's
minimal
had a thing on
traps. Yeah,
traps, but this really expands on that with puzzles that are traps that you can figure out.
yeah. You can make insight checks to get hints, but I'm not a big fan of puzzles per se. I always think it's like more of the player than the character, figuring these things out. Um, but yes, I mean it's classic D&D. It's iconic to include puzzles. So there's puzzles and some traps here, and yeah, like I said, you could take a deep dive on every single chapter here. But overall, CJ, review of this book, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. what do you think about it? What's your final thoughts?
My final thoughts. I mean, it's got a lot of great stuff for players and some really fantastic uh, additions for and rules for DMs to integrate into their games. It really opens up Dungeons and Dragons to being more inclusive and more fluid in a lot of ways. I think it's something that a lot of people have been looking for their games. It might not be what everyone was hoping that it would be. I think there are people out there that felt like either they didn't go far enough, or some people even think they went too far. But again, you're never going to make everyone happy. I'm incredibly happy with a lot of these options, and we'll definitely be trying to integrate these things into campaigns that I'll be running in the future. So I'm really happy with it. I don't think I'm going to give it a letter grade or a number grade, but other than to say that I approve and I appreciate all of the stuff that they really brought out to all of us in this.
And my final thoughts is, again, I think we in agreement with basically how we feel about this. Oops, going to switch it back here. There we go. So, in agreement, some things big hits and other things seem a little off. Just like we were saying, mechanic wise, some of the variant options seem either redundant or unnecessary, things that people had already been doing. But there are new players to D&D. I mean, I've been playing D&D since I was in 7th grade, so that's 22 years. It's a long time. But for someone who just picked up, D&D a year or two ago, this I think would be very helpful because it's stuff that isn't so intuitive or automatic. So, yeah, I am in agreement. I think it's great overall. There's some weird things in it that sometimes don't work for me, but overall, I'm all about diversity, more options, more choice in a game. So, I approve as well. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Two thumbs up. I don't think we can say that. It might be copyrighted.
one thumb and another thumb up.
I'm just gonna keep reading what's behind the DM screen now.
This is the only time you're going to get to be here, CJ. So
only
really,
I get to see behind the DM screen.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to do it for us here. This was a deep dive, but still barely scratched the surface of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I'm Bob. This is CJ, and we're going to sign off here. We will see you all
on the tabletop.
On the tabletop. Like, subscribe, follow. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.